And good evening. Welcome to the UD Football Show here on 101.1 The River on this Monday night after a Spartan victory. As the Spartans big winners at 23rd ranked, previously 23rd ranked Central College, winning 28-7, and by far the best performance for the Spartans this season, and a very dominating victory over the Central College Dutch, and always tough place to come home with a victory from. And Dubuque did it decisively with that 28-7 victory. So we've got a lot of good things to talk about with head coach Stan Zwiefel here during the course of the program. Just handed some information from Paul Meisner, sports information director, that the Spartans swept the Players of the Week awards in the American Rivers Conference. Josh Ezekiel, the Defensive Player of the Week. Of course, he had those two big interceptions. And the Offensive Player of the Week, Emmanuel Jenkins, who helped take down the Dutch by scoring those three touchdown catches and made some big plays as well at other times throughout that ball game. But just a great Spartan victory, so we've got a lot to talk about there. And, oh, by the way, it's homecoming this week on the University of Dubuque campus, and the Spartans welcoming in the Loras College Dewhawks for homecoming, as that'll be a 2 o'clock kickoff at Chalmers Field, and 1:40 with the pre-game show here on 101.1 The River, and you can view it as well. You can stream it from the University of Dubuque's website and listen to the game and watch the action. If you can't make it here, but try to get here for homecoming, it's going to be an exciting atmosphere as the Spartans look to take on the Dewhawks and keep that key for another season. That's right now in the UD trophy case here at Coach Zwiefel's offices. And we'll come back, and we're going to hear from Coach Zwiefel. Also, Evan Eastburn, who's the quarterback's coach for the Spartans, and he joins us post-game during our UD football broadcast. So we'll hear from Evan a little bit more specifically about the quarterback play this year and his duties there, and also Chris Knapp, a defensive assistant, and he's been responsible for a great academic year at the University of Dubuque for the football players, and he's going to talk about that. That's always very important, and we're going to visit with Coach Knapp about that as well as we get going. But Coach Z will join us next. We'll talk about that win at Central, then get ready for the next game against Loras when we return. This is the University of Dubuque Football Show on 101.1 The River. And we're back on this Monday night on the University of Dubuque Football Show with head coach Stan Zwiefel. The Spartans pulled even on the season, 3-3 on the year, 2-2 in American Rivers Conference play with just a great win. Congratulations on that win down at Central, 28-7. It was really as complete a game as you've played so far.
Absolutely, and we had talked about putting together a full game. You know, we played some bright spots at Coe and some bright spots at Simpson and some bright spots at Wartburg, but not both sides of the ball working together along with our special teams. And as I told you, it was going to be Game 6, and we had to put that together pretty fast. And one of the hard things, Tim, we're 3-3 now and 2-2, and it just seems like it's been crawling out of that well. You know what I'm saying? When you start out 1-3, it just, you look up and you still think, holy cow, we got a ways to go. And I really thought Central was going to be a really one of our most difficult games of the season. UW-Whitewater away, Wartburg away, Central away in our first 6 games. And so I felt like after we had beaten Coe, we had talked a little bit about trying to get a little bit better and try to put some things together and start playing our best football, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that all came to fruition on Saturday, and our defense played lights out the entire game. Our special teams, for the first time this season, did not hurt us, and they have hurt us during the course of this season. That was better. And then, of course, offensively, we dominated. Even though we didn't rush the ball as well as we wanted to, we dominated with our short passing game and our ability to pick up third downs in the throw game. I thought that was probably the most telling statistic about us having success, being able to stay on the field on third down or get us into manageable second downs where you could pick up. And we had such a time advantage in possession against Central. And as we talked a little bit earlier with Coach and you before we got on the air, Central never was able to get in sync, and that's a credit to our defense, obviously, against their offense, but also to get in sync, you got to be on the field. You just do. That's how it works on offensive football. So putting all those things together really made a difference. And then our kids played, I can't tell you why this is, Tim. If I did, I'd bottle it every Saturday. But they played loose. They played fast. They played loose. And you know what I mean by loose? I don't mean undisciplined. I mean they played like, hey, let's go have some fun and play hard. We've played hard all year, but I don't know if we've played as free as I thought just observing the game from our players. And so that was really a really good feeling for me, and I'm hoping we can continue that as we move down the road. It's like I said, it's been a long crawl. It's been a long crawl for us. It really has been, Tim. It feels like, holy cow, it's been hard. And so when you get yourself to 500, and now we can start to move back ahead, and we'll see what happens.
A lot of good things to talk about as we continue visiting about the ball game. But as you mentioned, the defense,
yes,
just smothering. Central was under 100 yards in the first half, and you're talking about a team that averaged over 500 yards
3 games,
coming into that
yards.
ball game, and just 227 for the ball game. And it was just it was really fun to watch.
It was fun to watch, and we confused their quarterback. Now I know the wind had something to do with it, but the wind had something to do with us too. So it went both ways on that. But it affected him, and then we were able to play some coverages against them that we had seen other people not do a very good job with. And that we felt if we could do some rerouting of their number 2, their inside receivers, they ran seams in the previous 3 games and had some great success. And our plan, put together by Coach Coleman and Coach Huberty and Coach Avaloy and Coach Knapp, they did a heck of a job. Tim, they really did. And I thought going into the game we were going to have a chance to hold them to 21 points. I really did when I watched the tape and looked at what we were going to do. And then we were able just to, for a lot of reasons, but the interceptions surely affected their quarterback.
5 of those interceptions.
5 interceptions in a game, and I think he had thrown 1 or 2 prior to that. So whatever that situation, it was great to see our men respond to that.
It had to be a little frustrating early on, though, first quarter, because you couldn't take advantage of some of those opportunities the defense was giving you. So you
2 very
took a little
short
while to
fields.
get started, but once you did, you got rolling.
2 very short fields that we couldn't score points on. The first one we had a fumble on a great effort by our tight end. That just happened. It just did. And then we ran a jet sweep down on about the 12-yard line and mishandled the ball and lost us 15 yards, and that kind of did that. But the good news was we didn't get away from our game plan. We stuck to that, and I really felt like our men thought, hey, they can't stop us. We're stopping ourselves right now.
And what really, I guess, put an exclamation point on the effort you had was how you came out the third quarter. That drive in the third quarter, 8 minutes long, 14 plays, 77 yards. I made the comment on the air, didn't I, Coach Killorn? And he can vouch for this. I said, if I had a wish, I'd wish for a 17-play drive right here. And you were 3
Would you
plays
say that
away.
more often, please? God dang it. Just continue to say that every drive we get the ball. Then
I was close.
Yeah,
I was close.
It was. And, Tim, you know, that third quarter was huge because we didn't give them a chance to get back in the game. And when the fourth quarter started, you saw the same thing I did. Sidelines were dead for them. There was not any energy over there. They were really just struggling to try to find something to get a first down. And late in I think it might have been 8-10 left in the fourth quarter, they punted at about the 46-yard line. And I kind of thought that was the red flag by them putting that up because I just felt like they felt they couldn't get it going. And then as I mentioned earlier, our special teams, Tyler Sheffield did a great job kicking off for us in that situation. He handled the wind well, both ways, both with it and against it. And, you know, Andy punted the ball really, really well. We got one inside the 10-yard line. And just the wind didn't affect him like it did their game because we have 2 strong-legged kickers. They really are. And so I think the wind wasn't as much a factor as it was. But Tim, I will say this to you. You know, a lot of guys have come talking, just like you said tonight, one of our better games we've played, and it surely is our best game this year. I hope it isn't the best game the whole year. I hope we continue to get a little bit better on that. I think our men are feeling pretty good about that part, but we've got a really strong rivalry coming in for us. It's a big rival game for them, and, you know, pretty important. We've been very successful against them in recent history, so we expect to get a great effort from those guys, and I know we'll talk about that as we move along, but we sure can't feel like this is the high point of the season, because it surely isn't going to be.
Mm-hmm. Talked about him at the start of the broadcast, but another one of those wide receivers that was converted to a defensive back. Josh Ezekiel, Player of the Week of those two INTs.
We've been pretty good with making those transitions over our last 5 years, but Josh was a receiver for us. Really good athlete. Timmy's an outstanding athlete. We've been trying for 2-3 years to find a spot, a home for him. And, our secondary's been pretty good over the course of years. And he's hung in there, and he didn't start the season at corner. He started at, he wasn't the starting corner, but now he is the last 2-3 games, and what a great response. And that first interception was highlight material, obviously, one-handed catch. And I thought that really gave us confidence and maybe took some confidence away from then. And he's been really involved in the run game. He's a physical kid, very powerful young man. I'm just really happy for him, Tim, because when a kid's a senior and you hang in there that long and good things happen, that's really what the sport of football is about.
Mm-hmm. Switching back to offense, we highlighted a little bit earlier, but the two big stats I'm looking at right now: third down conversions, 11 of 22 for you, 3 of 11 for Central, and then time of possession. You had it for almost 40 minutes to there 20 minutes.
It's tough for an offense to get in sync when you've been able to do that, and really we were able to do it into the wind very effectively. Mm-hmm. Not only run the ball, Sean Duffy throwing our short passing game in the wind really gave them problems. Stopping us, and I think that was enough balance in that game to never let him gang up on either the run or the pass. We were very balanced.
No doubt about that. So, you put this game behind you here soon, but what a great victory for the Spartans this season, just what the doctor ordered at the right time.
It really was, and as I mentioned to you 2 weeks ago against Cole, we needed that for our mental health. Oh, my gosh, that win against Cole. And I think we're going to look back. I hope we're going to look back and say that Cole was an important game to get us back to feeling that we could win some games. And so, every week you want to get a little bit better, Tim. We made a big jump, I thought, from Cole to Central. And again, we're an undefeated team down there, a very difficult place to win, And I thought our men really accepted that challenge, and we did a good job.
The other thing I was going to bring out, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more with Evan, was quarterback Sean Duffy's play. Just phenomenal on Saturday, 27 of 37, short passing game, like you mentioned, and just the one INT. But that wasn't a reflection at all on how he played.
Yeah, what's really interesting, is we've been right around 52 to 55% completion. We haven't been able to get above that 55. Mm-hmm. This week we're close to 70% or 72%, whatever that comes out to. And so that makes a big difference in staying on the field. And it also makes a big difference in the confidence of the quarterback. It just does. That's how it works.
We're talking with Stan Zwiefel, head football coach of the University of Dubuque. It is homecoming week on the UD campus, and the Spartans are getting ready for their next opponent, the Loras College Dewhawks. And we'll talk about that game. And then, of course, as we highlighted earlier, Evan Eastburn and Chris Knapp, assistants on Coach Zwiefel's staff, will be by to give us their thoughts on that win and also the season in general. So we'll come back and we'll have more of the UD Football Show with Coach Stan Zwiefel back after this on 101.1 The River. And we're back on Monday night here on the University of Dubuque campus. It is homecoming week. Of course, a lot of alumni coming back, former players, and just a great week in the community of any college, and the University of Dubuque no different. And, of course, you can log on to the University of Dubuque's website to find out all the festivities that are going on through the week. But one of the festivities is going to be a football game on Saturday as they take on the Loras College Dewhawks. And are you aware, has Loras ever been a homecoming opponent for the University of Dubuque?
Not during my time.
Yeah.
Not during my time. It has not been. So, and they're coming off a great win for them. They really ran the ball effectively against Luther. And who really impressed me in that game was their quarterback, Noah Sigworth, who's had he's been throwing the ball the last 2 years, but this year they're using more of his legs, I think, and he's an outstanding athlete, a great competitor. I had a chance to work with him when he's a high schooler a couple times and work with his throwing mechanics and so forth. And what impressed me most about him, he's just a great kid, competitive kid, humble kid, and he really is kind of the catalyst for their offense, very similar to what Hawkins is for Central. I think in many ways, when I make comparisons about what he does for their offense, I make the comparison what Hawkins did for or does for the Central offense. So we're going to have our hands full. That's going to be an exciting game. They're going to give us their best shot and their best effort. And like I said, we've been fairly successful against them recently in our history with them, and that key thing is an important thing for both universities. Being able to keep it for a year like a traveling trophy for the folks that don't know. It's a key, about a 6-foot key that has the scores on either side, the winning scores for them on their side and the winning scores for us on that side. I think this is going to be our 11th year of the Key City Classic. I believe that's accurate.
You've had it 8 seasons in a row now.
We've been very fortunate to have that the last 8 years. We're hoping we can keep it again. I know Loris is going to give us a great shot and great effort to get that thing over to their place. And I do know that they're feeling good about the games that they played last week, too, both coming off big wins for both programs. That put them back in a situation where they're one game under 500, got a chance to get to 500, and, of course, we got back to 500 as we talked about. So they're going to be a formidable opponent. I really am concerned about their ability to run the ball with the quarterback, as I mentioned earlier. We need to play great defense just like we did before, and I hope we just continue to improve, Tim. That's really what my goal is for our football teams, to get a little bit better each Saturday, and I saw some of that happen, as I mentioned earlier, this past Saturday.
As you pointed out, that was a big win for them. They were looking for something like you had, and they got that with a win, a homecoming win over Luther, 56-21. They're 2-3 on the season. Did give up 571 yards to Luther. So what was Luther able to do?
It was interesting because they got a lot of their yards when Loris was comfortably ahead. And so it'll be interesting. Luther's different than us, Tim, in that they're running some option holdovers from their past years. So we can't take a lot from what Luther did against Loris because their structure is going to be a little bit different against us. We have to kind of look at the teams that they've played, and they've played Cohen Central, common opponents with us, so we've looked very closely at that tape to try to get any of the schemes or things they're going to do. But I do know this. They'll play harder in this game than we've seen them play in other games. They just will. They'll be very inspired against us, and I understand that.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to match that emotion early and try to stave anything off that would be an advantage for either team just based on emotion.
Last 2 seasons, I mean, this game has come down to the wire.
Kind of fun, isn't it? Woo!
Last season, who can forget that? I don't know, 2 miles of offense, something like that. And
it was a lot, probably more than each defensive coordinator preferred. I know that, and it ended up on a very phenomenal, unusual play, a quarterback sack and a fumble recovery for a touchdown. And that game was in doubt till that happened.
That looked like it was going to overtime.
It sure did. It sure felt like it, didn't it? It really did. And who knows, this game, maybe it'll be 0-0 going in the fourth quarter. It's so hard to tell those things from year to year. But I do feel like we're going to have to match their emotion. We're going to have to play inspired football. And one of the things you worry about after a big win is there going to be a lull. And I really don't think there will be from our guys because, as I told you, that long climb up for us has we've got our head a little bit above water now. We'd like to keep it there.
I don't think there's going to be much room in the stands with Loris being right here in town, and of course homecoming.
Yes.
So of course homecoming, you want to get a win, and a lot of former players coming in. That's always a special time.
It is always fun, and we've got some messages from some of our former players starting Saturday after the game. Probably had, without exaggerating, 25 or 26 texts from former players just saying congrats down Central. They know how hard it's to win at Central. And then, of course, comma after that, and you know who you got next week. Yeah, I am aware of who we got next week, fellas. I really am. So, but that's been it's a rival game, and it's got huge importance, I think, to the schools as well as the football program, bragging rights in town, all those kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, it is really a rarity for college football. The only other city rivalry I can think of is USC-UCLA.
Absolutely. There aren't many of them out there, Tim.
There's not.
And not 2-3 blocks apart either, my friend. So that's interesting because when you go to the store or whatever, you're going to see Loris, whatever that, whether it's an alumni or students or whatever those may be, and that's interesting in this community.
Well, any final thoughts before I let you go here on the game coming up and maybe the Central win on Saturday?
Really excited about that win on Saturday, Tim. Really was. It was a good feeling. You know, one of the things you like to see for your kids is they get better and have success, and I really felt that we got some reward for the hard work that we did.
All right. Well, Coach, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you later this week. And we'll look forward to visiting with Chris Knapp and Evan Eastburn coming up in our final segment. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Tim.
All right. Stan Zwiefel, head football coach of the University of Dubuque, joining us, and we'll have the tag team of Evan Eastburn and Chris Knapp joining us when we return on the UD Football Show on 101.1 The River. And we're back on the University of Dubuque Football Show here on 101.1 The River. And in this segment, we're going to talk with a couple of the assistants. Evan Eastburn going to join us first, and then Chris Knapp. And Evan, the familiar voice this season, he's been coming up at halftime or after the ball game to talk about the Spartan ball game, appointed by Coach Zwiefel. So this is old hat to you.
It really is. I'm surprised you guys let me back on the air.
No, we nobody else wants to do it. So
that's fair. I mean, you guys are miserable to hang out with. Just brutal.
That's what it came down to. So
yeah.
we're glad to have you, Coach. And let's reflect on that win and what that's done for the Spartan team.
Well, shoot, man, the sun always shines a little bit brighter after a win. Guys have a little more pep in their steps, so it was definitely much needed. You know, obviously going into Pella, playing a ranked team at home, that is a huge challenge. And hats off to our guys for shutting out all the distractions and just focusing on the task at hand. Hopefully it propels us going forward. Obviously, homecoming this week against Loris, and they're a solid program, and we have our hands full.
Specifically, you focus on the quarterback play. You're the quarterback's coach of the Spartans, and Sean Duffy put together a really great game. And as you broke that down, was it as impressive as it looked on paper?
Yeah. Obviously, there's still room for improvement. You got to hold the quarterback like any position to high standards. But I thought he made good decisions with the football. Didn't have any big lapses in judgment where he was forcing the ball in the tight areas, and I thought Coach Clark and Coach Z put together a really good game plan that really maximized his skill sets. I also think our receivers did a really good job getting open for him. He made a couple tough routes. They look really easy because their receivers were shaking the heck out of the Central D. Obviously it was a really solid game for him. It was his second highest QB rating of the season, behind the Pacific game where he threw 5 touchdowns. But definitely his most efficient game, highest completion percentage of the season, and obviously 3 touchdowns to go with it.
And to have primarily we're a short passing game, and that really helps build the quarterback's confidence when you can hook up with the receivers and get it going.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that we looked at after the co-game was how do we get Sean in a rhythm, and the short passing game was something that we really wanted to focus on, and it just happened to match up with what Central was doing defensively, and we felt like we could exploit that a little bit, and I think that's a really solid thing. We don't have to, we have the speed to go over the top every time, but sometimes it's not the best answer. Sometimes you can dink and dunk it and play basketball on turf, so to speak. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the quarterback position in general at the University of Dubuque. Of course, a quarterback is just one play from having to come in, and they've got to be ready. So talk about your depth at quarterback.
Yeah, we got some really great kids. Obviously Sean being a 2-year starter, starting to come into his own, starting to become a little bit of a leader. He's a little bit of a relaxed guy. He's from Alaska, so he's I kind of joke with him. He reminds me of the Big Lebowski sometimes. And if you see him around campus, he's probably wearing a poncho and he's got a beard and long hair, so I think that kind of irks Coach Z more than it irks me. But good kid. He's coming to his own as a quarterback, and trying to take on a little bit more of a leadership role now in his second year starting. Behind him, Josh Raby is a freshman coming in, very talented kid, big arm on him, really good decision maker. I was able to get with him over the summer a little bit at a football camp, and see him throw a little bit, and the kid can make the throws. So the future is really bright. And behind that, we've got Danny Herrera, kid from Arizona, a little more of a mobile kid, bigger, really solid arm as well. Likes to chuck the ball deep, so we're in good shape right there. And then a couple freshmen as well, Noah Parker and Harry Harrison Haynes from here in Dubuque. So solid kids all around, and I think the future's pretty bright here.
Coach, we appreciate you coming over on Monday night, and we'll see you on Saturday at the Loris game. Thanks for coming up, and as always, it's appreciated. Thank you.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much.
All right, we're going to tag team here and bring in Chris Knapp, defensive assistant for the Spartans, and we're going to talk a little bit about defense, but also some academic success. I know that he's really pleased with this season. Coach Zweifel and I were talking about that before the program. Chris, thanks for coming on the program, jumping on the air with us.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about that defensive performance on Saturday. That was really a dominating effort overall.
It was outstanding. It was all levels just sort of shined, came together at the right time, and that's what you get with the better football teams. It takes them a minute to find their identity and for the coaching to sink in. And once they started to see the benefits of getting physical at all three levels, things just started to go our way, and I think it'll build from here. You know,
defensively, they've really played pretty well all season long. That was probably the best effort, but there have been some that have been pretty close, when you look at the grand scheme.
Sure. It like I said, it just takes a minute to gel, especially on defense. The pieces are so connected, and when one level's not having a great game, the other levels suffer, and we just kind of had that experience Saturday where all the levels played their best, and I think we really saw who we are as a defense. And like I said, it's going to grow from here. I believe it.
Mm-hmm. Coach, talk about your area that you're assisting with on the defense, I guess specifically, or
I work with the outside linebackers and safeties primarily, but I'm kind of the floater. We've got a great coach at each three of the three levels of the defense, and I do the player development piece as well as the football coaching and also the scouts for the offense. So it's kind of a little bit of everything, which is beautiful. It's fun. I enjoy my day every day.
Of course, at Division III, most of these guys aren't going to play anywhere at the next level. This is their last stop, and so it's important for them to get a good education wherever they're at. And I know I was talking with Coach Zweifel before the show began, and he was just really happy with where that has been. And you've had a big role in that. So just talk about the successes in academics this year.
It's kind of been my motivation throughout coaching. I've been doing this for quite a while, and I've always had that, I'm going to call it at risk. It's a little bit different here, but a lot of the students that come here to play football are not your traditional college academics, and the university has a very distinctive and unique mission to try and offer that educational piece to people who are willing to do the work, that show the ability that might get overlooked by other schools. Mm-hmm. And there are so many resources here to help those kids, those student athletes, get through and get the degree. It just seemed that there was a place for a football coach to get in there and kind of bridge the gap, because a lot of our players are not used to having that kind of support in their lives. A lot of them come from support systems that aren't the best, and they're not used to it. Mm-hmm. So I kind of scoot them along and get them over there and show them what's available, and I'm there to motivate them as a football coach, because that gets them focused, but also as an alum from UD and somebody who's very familiar with the school and the people here, I understand that the emphasis here is to give everybody a chance if they're willing to do the work. And there are so many different support systems, like I said, and I want to be the one that coordinates all that stuff so that the players, the student athletes, are aware of what's there.
And it sounds like it's really been taken off and being very successful.
It has. We've got probably 20 different football players that are working with specific tutors in classes, and we get anywhere from 40 to 50 kids at our study tables at the library in the evenings once a week. So it's going great, and it continues to build.
That's great. Great news. Thanks for coming on and talking about that aspect of it. Football, of course, is important, but in the grand scheme of things, that academic education that you get is really invaluable, going to serve you for the rest of your life.
Right. Like you said, football comes to an end eventually, but the man you become while you're here playing football is the most important piece.
All right, Chris, thanks for coming up. Great having you on the air, and good luck to the Spartans on Saturday.
Thank you, sir.
All right, that's going to wrap up our UD football show here on this Monday night on 101.1 The River. Just a reminder, it's a 2 o'clock kickoff against Loris on Saturday. We'll be on the air at 1:40, and you can watch it, the stream live as well on the University of Dubuque's website. You can find the link right there and listen to the broadcast as well. And we'll be back here next Monday night with another UD football show with head coach Stan Zwiefel. I'm Tim Larry on 101.1 The River.